See if we can find a place of relative stillness in your seat. Maybe there's a bit of kind of wriggliness still happening in the pelvis, somewhere where we're kind of almost still or moving towards stillness. And in fact, that is the theme of our practice today: movement as a route to stillness, kind of movement towards stillness, or a sense of like slowing down. You might close your eyes or just let the eyes drop down to focus to the ground out in front of you. We'll give ourselves a bit of time here. Maybe it's a check-in, maybe you are welcoming yourself to your practice. Noting anything from your day that you want to just leave out to the side. And equally noting anything that you would like to bring into your practice this evening. Maybe it's the simple word, gentle, or kindness. We'll take a few clearing breaths together to open here as well. So let's find a breath in through the nose. And then an exhale or a sigh out through the mouth. And I'll guide us through 5 more of those. Breathing in through the nose. And out through the mouth. Breathing in through the nose. And out through the mouth. One more like this, breathing in and out. You can allow the breath just to meander at its own pace here, or let this kind of slow rhythm start to appear. And inhale nose and exhale through nose. Something slow, something steady. And we're going to bring movement in fairly early, so we'll start to move here. Let your body just take a lean over to one side, as if you're kind of leaning against a wall, except from that wall isn't there. Really slowly on this first one, bring the torso forwards as if you're coming into your forward fold, and your hands can go onto your knees if that feels helpful here. Hold in this kind of forward lean pace. And then can you find the other side? So as if you're leaning against a wall over to the other side and the shoulders trying to get all the way over. It might even be that the pelvis lifts a little or the knee lifts. And then can we do the same back behind? And then the invitation is to continue tracing that circle around here. But see if we can find more of a kind of smoother circular movement. So it keeps kind of moving around and around. And you can lean less and less as you move around, or you can keep quite a big circle. Let the elbows bend a little as the torso moves around here. You could almost think of this as like if the spine is like a stick in a bowl and our pelvis is the bowl, and we're just kind of stirring around down here just to check in with all that space around the lower back and around the pelvis. And then the idea is to simply reverse in the other direction. So at some point, let that circle reverse, find the opposite direction here as well. Fab. But on this opposite direction, see if then each circle can get a tiny bit smaller, as if you're coming back to this kind of central line, the middle of the body. And it might be that those circles are still going, but they're just smaller and smaller, or maybe you're already in stillness. Either way, when you do find that central place in the body, see if you can lift the chin to the sky, let the hands slide to the very front of the knees, and then maybe the chin stays here as the hands reach up towards the sky. You can have the palms turn to face towards each other, or take a few circles around with your wrists this time. Noticing any of those wonderful clicks in the joints, circling one direction and then the other direction. And then almost like all of those leaves that are currently floating down from trees, let the circles in the wrists continue as you draw the hands wide and then down, as if each hand is a leaf just kind of slowly floating and circling back down to the earth, where it moves from stillness, or from movement even to stillness. Let the hands land. Let your left ear drop down towards the left shoulder. And then can we again trace a circle? The chin comes down towards the chest. The right ear comes around towards the right shoulder. And then retracing that semicircle or full circle. So if you want to lift the chin to sky, you could take a full circle. Or take a semicircle here a couple of times on each side. We've been sat with our legs like this for a bit of time, so we are going to unravel them here. If you've got, like me, something underneath your seat, feel free to slide that out to the side and just let the legs go out in front of you here. So the legs go long on your mat. And then can we take some circles with the ankles? So we're circling them around. You can take much more of a point and a flex if you prefer. I just do circles, so I'm going to cue lots of circles today in our practice. Great. From here, we're going to fold forwards. Let that be a bit more bend in the knee, even if you're really used to having the legs super straight here. So encourage your knees to bend a bit more. And then rather than thinking like this is going to be the deepest fold forwards, just let yourself kind of lean a little bit forwards. And maybe your hands are draped over your shins. If you want to take your hands underneath your knees, you can take your hands underneath your knees. Let the chin tuck and let the spine round here. So we're trying to make it less kind of focused on the hamstrings by having more of a bend in the knees. We're not going to be here particularly long, but this is a position we'll revisit later on. Breath in and out here. And then almost as if we're trying the opposite here, we're going to slide the hands back behind. Does not matter which way the fingers point, but land the palms so they're underneath the shoulders. See if you can play with lifting the chest and either keep the chin tucked, or if it feels okay, let the chin kind of drop back so it kind of rests in your shoulders, or it just lifts to the sky. If you want more here, if you want a little bit more kind of strength, you could play with lifting your pelvis off the ground, or you can absolutely keep it just down on the ground like I am today. We're going from a fold to this opening, and then we're going to go to another fold here. Cross your legs, let the chin tuck. And again, rather than kind of forcing ourselves to go as far forwards as possible, can you almost like drape yourself gently over your shins here? And maybe we encourage that gentleness by having the palms facing to the ground rather than they're like reaching and pulling out in front of you. Let the chin tuck, the spine round. Almost like a bit of heaviness around the head. Slow breath in and out. Great. From here, we're going to make our way to our hands and to our knees. Some of you might want to roll over your shins. Otherwise, take the legs around to one side, coming onto your hands and onto your knees. Let the fingers spread nice and wide. And rather than cat-cows, can you bring the shoulders forward so they go past the hands, and then rock the pelvis back to a lifted child's pose. So the pelvis is going to the heels, but the head is looking forwards. And then continue this kind of rocking motion forwards and backwards. And purposely not cueing breath here. Just let your breath flow how it needs to. And if that's like in rhythm with a particular movement, great, feel free to lean into that. Or just let yourself breathe as you need to. Let's take a couple more forwards and backwards. And you can stay with this movement as it is today, or we'll add our cat-cows in. So coming forwards, dropping the belly down, looking forwards with the chin, And then can we tuck the chin under, lifting through the back of the body, finding that arch of curve of spine, cat, and then repeating the movement. So inhaling, cow pose, forward. Exhale, rounding through the back body to find your cat. 3 more like this, inhaling to your cow pose. Exhaling to your cat. Great. 1 more. Inhale, cow pose. Exhale to cat. And then tucking the toes, lifting the knees to find a downward facing dog. In your downward facing dog can look however it wants to look today. You can have your feet nice and wide. You can play with kind of pedaling out through the feet or taking a sway side to side. Or maybe even that rock forwards and backwards like you were doing in your tabletop. Take a couple more breaths here just to say hello to it. Maybe the head gets a gentle shake or a nod as well. And then slightly different to normal, can we take our right foot to the back of the left hand and then the left foot behind it? So we end up in this kind of cross leg position. And if this brings any pain around the pelvis, unravel the feet, have them side to side how you'd normally be for your forward fold. If you're here, let the knees have a bit of a bend in them as well. And then either way, can we bring the hands up onto the knees and just lift halfway? Maybe they sit just above the knees. And then folding back down, rolling all the way up to the sky. If you have the legs crossed, keep the legs crossed here. Take the hands up and over to the sky, finding your left wrist with your right hand and taking the left wrist over to the right. Breath in and out here. Slowly, and if you have the space, I don't quite have the space, you could take your arms in a big, wide circle to come all the way down to the ground. And we're going to step our left foot back, but bring the left knee to the ground and take the right foot to the edge of your mat. So it's on the right edge. If you want something for your hands here, you could place your hands on a hot bolster. It's a bit higher, or on 2 blocks if you have 2 blocks. Or you can simply find your fingertips. A gentle rock forward, and then a gentle rock backwards. And you're in control of how far you go forwards and backwards. As you go forward, you might think about lifting the chin. And then as you go back, play with lifting the sole of your foot. The heel stays down though. So inhaling forward, chin half lift. Exhaling back. Maybe there's a bit of length through the leg. 1 more. So rock forward and backwards. Great. And then I'm going to invite you to either pause in the forward space or in the backward space. So if you had a preference out of those two, take that. I'm going to say forwards. That's where I need to be today. But you choose which of those two you would rather be in. Slow, steady breath in the shape. Notice if you're kind of clenching your jaw whilst you're in it. See if that can soften a little. And then if you had your hands on something here, bring your palms down to the mat. We'll find ourselves, or we'll meet ourselves in downward facing dog. So the front foot steps back and just again pedaling out through the feet. I'm going to try and do exactly the same the other side. So this time it's the left foot that wants to step up to the right side, and then the right foot steps behind. So we end up again with kind of cross-legged feet here. Let the knees bend as generously as you need to. Halfway lift, so hands can find the shins or knees. You can also find blocks out in front. And then folding down, slowly rolling all the way up to standing, hands up and over. And then this time taking hold of your right wrist and taking the right wrist over to the left. So kind of almost crescent-like curve through the edge of the body. If you have the space, maybe you take the arms really wide as you bring them down to the ground. Let your knees bend generously. Slide your right foot back to bring the right knee down, and then the left foot shuffles all the way over to the left edge of your mat. And again, if you want your hands on something for a bit more height, hands can be on blocks, on a bolster, on something cushiony. And then start to bend your front knee more to bring the pelvis forward. You might lift the chin. And then as you rock back, we're playing with bringing the toes back towards us. And again, let yourself move with your breath. Maybe it's the inhale that brings you forwards, the exhale that brings you back, back. You can move as far as you need to. Just tuning into all that space. Taking a couple more breaths. And then again, can you pick either forward, so forward is our lizard lunge, or backwards, our kind of half split-ish. So whichever of those two you want to hold in for 2 slow, steady breaths. In. If, like me, you had your hands on something here, you can slide that away. We'll meet in our downward facing dog. So we want to tuck our back knee and step the left foot back. This time, we'll slowly walk both feet to the top of the mat, how we might normally do here. You can have the feet as wide as you want to. I'm going to take mine almost as wide as the mat here. Let your knees bend quite generously. And then if you were to tuck the chin higher, it's almost like the very top of your head. It's the part of the head that's trying to get close towards the ground. Maybe there's a gentle sway left and right, or a gentle shake or nod of the head. Breath in and out here. Back. From our forward fold, can you unravel up to the sky? This time, the hands might go up and over, and you can have the hands in a big Y shape. You can bring your palms together here. From here, let the hands come behind your lower back. Option 1, to have your palms rest on the lower back, fingertips point down. Option 2, you could interlace your hands, find a fist, and push your fist down towards your tailbone. Whichever one you prefer, think about a slight squeeze of your glutes to push the pelvis forwards, and then leaning the shoulders back to lift the chin and the chest up towards the sky. With a tiny bend of your knees, hinging forwards with at the hips to take the torso forwards. So we're coming back to our fold, but our hands stay behind. The hands might rest on your lower back, and maybe they just stay there and you're noticing that sense of stretch underneath the hands, or you can send your hands somewhere to the sky behind you if you prefer. Either of those two spaces. And maybe there's again that gentle rocking movement around here. In and out. Let the hands slide back down towards the feet. One last time, we're going to come all the way up to standing, reaching the hands up and over again, and then letting the hands come down either side of the pelvis. And I just turn to face you here. So the hands are kind of down here. Maybe you give the hands a shake, almost as if you're shaking water off them, and then let the elbows get involved. Everything is kind of shaking. You could do one leg, so if you lean on one leg and give the other a good shake out, like dogs shake off all of the rain if they've been out in the rain. And you do that with the other leg, and then see if you can kind of shake the whole body here. Wah. And then when you feel ready, come to stillness and just see if you can notice the difference between that like whole load of wriggly movement and then the sense of stillness. And sometimes it almost feels like fizzy, or like there's this bubbliness left. And we'll do something that we often do in our gentle movement section, some spiraling of the spine. So we want the feet to be slightly wider than our hips, toes slowing tightly out, and the knees have a bit of a bend in them. And then the arms want to be as relaxed as possible. So again, I'm just giving them a few shakes here to try and encourage them to be nice and relaxed. And then we're going to move as if we're moving from like the central axis of the body. So if you imagine a line down the body, let the shoulders come over to one side, and then can we bring the shoulders back around, and then just let that sway continue, and you'll find your kind of own rhythm with it. It might be quite small. Maybe the arms kind of bounce on your body, or maybe they're away from your body. And then you can add a bit more if you like to. So as you sway around, you could lift your right heel, and then your left heel, and your right heel, and your left heel. So you end up kind of pointing the toes down to the ground. Maybe you're even looking over your shoulder as you spiral around. If you get dizzy, just come back to look forwards. Great. And then imagine again that you're kind of slowing down back to center. So each spiral gets a little less until eventually you're in this place where there's almost stillness. And then maybe there is stillness. Let your feet land where they feel steadiest. We'll take a few deeper breaths here as well. I'm going to encourage us to breathe in. Imagine expanding the breath all the way down towards the belly. And then a really long, soft exhale through the mouth. Breathing in all the way down. And a long, soft exhale. One more of these here. Breathing in. And out. Before we come all the way down to our mat, let your feet go even wider. You could even think like you're trying to make yourself into a star shape. So the toes rotate slightly out, the feet go wider than your mat, and then the arms reach out as if the arms are reaching to the top two corners of the room that you are in. Fingers might spread nice and wide, and you can stay kind of in the shape that you're in, or take a gentle lean back so you're lifting the heart up towards the sky and maybe the chin towards the sky as well. Breath in and out. Let the hands drop back down. Heel toe the feet underneath the pelvis. We're going to roll ourselves back down here. So I'm going to move myself back to the top of the mat. If you have a bolster, two bolsters, a pile of cushions, or a couple of blocks, we're going to need those in a moment here. Let the hands, again, hang down either side of the pelvis. And then if we're thinking about rolling down, like a kind of sausage roll, we're going to tuck our chin in, or a Swiss roll is probably a better reference. Bringing the chin in, and then imagine you're kind of rolling yourself in here. You are the sponge, rolling yourself into that shape, coming down. And then as you come down, let the knees bend and see if you can find something for your hands to land on. Now, if the ground is within reaching distance, I'm still going to encourage you to bring something underneath your hands that's a bit higher. So we're taking a little bit of effort out of this. And maybe that's like two things. Maybe it's three things. You can always land your elbows on it if you prefer. See if you can find a bit of bend in your knees, and then let your hands land on an object, on two blocks, on a pile of cushions. And we're going to take just 5 rounds of breath here. If you like playing with that sense of kind of pushing and pulling. You can lean into your hands and then lean into your feet, or you can stay relatively still here. Great. Then keeping the bolster fairly close to you, or keeping whatever things you have underneath your hands fairly close to you, we're going to step just the right foot back. Drop the right knee down, bring the left knee back, and find a kneeling position for a moment here. If it's not comfortable for you to sit on the tops of your feet, have your legs out in front of you. We're not going to be here too long. I just want us to take a few more circles through the shoulders. So rolling the shoulders back and down. In a moment, I'm going to invite us to find our child's pose. And we can take our child's pose in a couple of different ways with our props. I'm just going to demo 2 different ways that I like to do it, but you might already know your favorite. I tend to take the knees quite wide, and if you do have like a couple of pillows or a bolster, you could bring the bolster lengthways on your mat, so it's away from you, one end between your knees, and gently kind of roll yourself down onto it here. And this is perhaps, I would say, the gentler option. If your shoulders at the end of a Monday want a bit more stretch, you can do something slightly different here, which is to have the bolster widthways across your mat. To push it quite far away, have your elbows on it, and then drop your head kind of down into that gap. What I would encourage you to do is find a child's pose that feels comfortable. So add extra props in. If you've got an extra pillow that you can slide under the head end, have an extra pillow under your head end, or it might be an extra blanket. Child's pose just is a comfort one. You can come back into your kneeling position. You can find your tabletop, or you can come down onto your back and hug the knees into your chest. And depending the positioning of your head, you might bring the chin over to one side, or your head might be down to the ground. I'm going to let you know when we're halfway through, so those of you that do have your head turned in one direction will know when we're roughly halfway through this posture. But we're starting to kind of come into these more restorative postures here. I'm going to keep my chest lifted just so that you can still hear me properly on the mic. So from here on in, I'm going to speak less and give us more space for rest. Each posture that we look at will hold for a bit longer. And I'd encourage you to try and use as many props as possible. The reason we use props in our restorative yoga, well, there's many reasons, but my reasons are to support the body, to encourage it to rest. So there's less like holding ourselves in places with our muscles. And we can find a bit more ease. We're halfway through our child's pose, so if you have your head turned to one side, you might lift it and bring it over to the other side. Perhaps spending the rest of this posture just focusing back in on your breath. take another 10 slow, steady breaths just as you are. Starting to bring a wriggle to fingers and to toes. Sliding your hands back under the shoulders and slowly lifting your body up here. I'm coming to kneeling, but if you would like to take a few cat-cows on the way, please feel free to do that. I'm just going to grab myself a pillow. If you're taking your cat-cows, just those gentle sways through the spine. And from here, we are going to meet in our seat. So the legs out in front. So if you were using a bolster, let it roll off to one side or a pile of cushions. Swiveling your feet round and then taking the legs out in front. And we had a forward fold earlier that I mentioned we were going to come back to. We're going to take about 5 minutes in this forward fold. So this is where we do want to really listen into the parts of our body that want support here. So I'm going to suggest a blanket to sit on. Again, this could be a cushion to sit on, something where the pelvis is a little lifted, and perhaps a second blanket or a cushion under the back of the knees. So we've got that tiny bend in the knee that can be encouraged here. You can have more bend through the knees, and if you don't want either of those two things, chuck them out to the side. And then what I'd like us to try and do is then pile things on top of our legs or hug into things. So one option is to take things on top, and they might be pillows, blocks, things that you can kind of lean forward and have something to rest your head on. So for me, that looks a bit like a bolster and a couple of blocks, and then my head is rested. You could also, if you have like a bed pillow or a bolster, have a bit of space between your feet, bring it up so the bolster or the bed pillow leans towards you, and give it a big hug instead. And then with the hug, you can kind of nestle your chin down into the bolster. So again, maybe we're using quite a lot of props today. So if you need extra things, steal them off the sofa. Steal them off the bed. And be fussy with it. If you've come in and you're like, you know what, actually, this just doesn't feel quite right. I actually need to be much more upright. Allow yourself to be more upright. And then we're going to take about another 4.5 minutes here. You're not stuck, so if you need to move, small or big, you can move as you need to. The intention here is this gentle opening for the whole back line of the body. So down the spine, particularly around the lower back and the back of the pelvis. And then even though our knees are supported, we're also thinking about the kind of opening around the back of the legs and the back of the knees. Notice again if your jaw is clenched. And if it is, maybe there's a bigger exhale that wants to escape through the mouth. If you need to move and allow yourself to, or if any of the sensations have changed here. And then really gently start to use your hands to bring yourself up, and rather than leaning back this time, to allow the spine to come upright, almost as if you're trying to stack the spine over the pelvis all the way up to the sky. Taking a few deeper breaths here. We are in a moment going to come all the way down to the back of the body. And this will be kind of the descent towards stillness, as it were. Just kind of move towards Savasana, and we'll take a few postures still when we're on our back. But to come down, if you had things on top of your legs, slide them out to the side. If you had something under the back of the knees, you might release that to the side as well. Have them within reaching distance. And then we want to shuffle off whatever was under our pelvis if you had something under the pelvis. If you do have a blanket here, I'm going to suggest we take a roll of our blanket. If I bring mine round in front, we're trying to find like a tight rolled sausage. Sausage talk in my chest today. Maybe I'm thinking about it now. So that rolled up blanket can go like where your spine is, the length of your spine. And you can choose whether you rest your head on it or whether your head kind of drops off on the end, or if you've got a pillow, chuck a pillow on the top where your head would go as well. If you don't have a blanket today and you've got a cushion, then you could just simply lie your shoulders on a cushion here instead. If you've got any other props, have them near you. Come round and then gently, and it'll take a bit of finding the right space, but bring yourself down onto your rolled up blanket so that the blanket is like, or you're central to the spine. And you could have your knees up to the sky, or you can have your legs out long. Just pick whichever of those feels more comfortable. Often we use bolsters, and if you have a bolster, of course you can use that. With a blanket, it's just a slightly softer opening across the front of the shoulders. So there should be like an opening around the front, and almost like the shoulder blades are kind of curved slightly around your blanket if you're using a blanket. Hands can tuck into pockets if you have pockets. You can tuck them into a waistband if you waistband here. Or if you're like, oh, I feel the sense that I need to lean into spaciousness, and then you could take the arms out wide, left and right. Any of those options. If you do have your knees, sorry, to the sky, take the feet slightly wider than your pelvis and just let the knees move towards each other here. They don't have to touch, but towards each other slightly. Pausing here. We'll be here for about 2 minutes. Maybe your eyes close. You find soft. And then what I'm going to encourage us to do is lean slightly over to one side, and it doesn't matter which, but just so we can slide out whatever it was that was behind the spine, and then bring the spine flatter onto the ground. And just notice different. And maybe it's not substantial. Maybe it just feels more grounding across the back, or the tilt of the pelvis might feel slightly different. You can stay here or bring your knees towards you. Give them a squeeze in, this kind of sense of curling. You can have the knees close to each other or wide. A gentle rock, left, right. A sway of the knees in circles here, exploring your lower back. If you would like this to be more focused to the very lower part of your spine, send the feet up to the sky. Take your feet into like a V shape, or your legs into a V shape. It's funny because the teacher that taught me that is called Venetia. It's a V shape. And then you might take the legs for a sway, but keeping the V shape between the legs here. Our seagrass legs, which is perhaps slightly more yin in its nature. It also finds that push down of the lower part of the spine into the ground. You can keep your legs up there as long as you like, or you can play again with bringing them back together, circling around your ankles a few times. Eventually, you might bring your feet back down to the ground and just let them land. Simple, just let the soles of your feet be in contact with your mat. And then let the knees again sway left right. Use this next minute to move in any way that you need to move. For our Shavasana today, I'm going to be guiding us through a meditation to come into that Shavasana. And it's called our 5 bodies meditation or a kosher meditation. But let yourself move how you need to move first. So if there's a posture you want to take before Shavasana, something stretchy, something soft, whatever it needs to be, take it. And then when you feel ready, set yourself up for the most comfy Shavasana that you can. The idea of like nesting in, so you could have a big blanket cover you, or if you're at home, you could grab a duvet and cover yourself with your duvet. You want a bolster or some bed pillows around the back of your knees for support. And like we did in our fold, you could take that. I'm just coming to my seat so that I can guide the meditation. But start to set yourself up for Shavasana here. If you are at home and you want to take your Shavasana in your bed, you can take your Shavasana in your bed. You just need to move whatever device you are on to that place. Take time to find all of those elements that you find comfortable. Do you want the arms open out wide or the palms rested to your torso? If you had a pillow behind your head, then it tucks the chin ever so slightly, which might feel nice. And if being on your back is not a comfortable place, find your seat, find your side. And our 5 bodies meditation or kosher meditation is a meditation that's intention is to bring us inwards to this quieter space, or inwards towards stillness or inner bliss. You can, as always, just listen to the sounds without really attaching much meaning to them, or you can come along with the meditation. It begins with bringing awareness to your physical body, bringing awareness to your physical body, the body that allows you to move through the world, your legs, your arms, your bones, your skin, all of the things that make up you. And from the physical body, the invitation is to move inwards towards the body of breath, to notice your breath. Our prana, or our energy and our life force, the breath that nourishes us, the breath that brings us life. From the body of breath, I invite you to move inwards towards the body of mind. And the body of mind is where all of your intellect and your creativity and all of those unique things about you are stored. The thinking mind, the place that makes you uniquely you. moving inwards from the body of mind towards the body of feeling. And the body of feeling might sit somewhere around your heart, the place where our emotions are found or held. Or you could think about it as how we experience the world around us. Perhaps noticing how you feel. And then that last place that we journey inwards towards is that innermost place, the body of being. You could think of this as a connection inwards to self, to this inward sense of bliss, or your inner wisdom, place of knowing that's held right in the center of you. As soon as you can hold that connection inwards with compassion, allowing it to rest here for a few more minutes. Awareness has wandered. See if you can bring it back to wherever that central space is, and if it's helpful, take a hand to wherever it felt like the center of you is. Maybe there's a slightly deeper breath. See if you can keep some sense of connection to that kind of inward place of wisdom as you bring the awareness back through all of the different bodies of feeling, of mind, of breath, and of the physical body. And when you meet the physical body, maybe there's some wriggles of fingers and of toes again. It is Rest Club, so there is no need for you to have to get up. If you would like to close your practice just in the position that you're in right now, you can stay exactly as you are and you don't have to move at all. It may be that you want to take a few wriggles and a stretch. But you also have that choice to come up to your seat to kind of close the practice today together. So if you do want to come to a seat, take time, take maybe a stretch, a wriggle, a yawn, a roll to one side, and slowly bringing yourself to your seat. If you're staying where you are, give yourself permission just to stay exactly as you are. Whether you are seated or whether you're remaining lying down today, take a moment to thank yourself for taking this time out of your day, for carving out time and space for your practice, to move slowly, to move with care. You might send that thank you outwards to anyone that made it possible for you to find this time today. Maybe there's people that move things around. Or sending a sense of gratitude outwards to a few people in your life. I'm going to guide us through a few rounds of breath just before we close here. Feel free to make them really big sighs out. Let's take an inhale here together through the nose. And an exhale or a sigh out. A breath in through the nose. And an exhale out. Breathing in and out. Let your breath be at its natural rhythm. You could bring your hands to rest onto your torso or bring the palms together in Anjali Mudra. Sending gratitude to this practice itself, the practice of yoga. We'll just take a gentle nod or a bow to close our practice today.